And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Live. All right, we are not going to waste any time. No show and tell or anything. I want to jump into this Mustang painting. I did a bunch on it during the week, and we're just about ready to go with it. So hopefully, I don't know how close we'll get to finishing it this afternoon, but you guys will definitely get a good idea of what it's going to look like. So let me switch over, and we're going to get right to it. No messing around today. No messing around. All right. So this is what I've got. I've done, for those who missed it, this is being done on a piece of titanium, which I got a little while ago. So Simon, what's up? I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing on this fine Thursday evening? So again, this is titanium, and I've done a lot of stuff on titanium. This is what it looks like in the raw, which it's a beautiful metal. It's a lot like aluminum, looks like aluminum, but it has kind of like a gold cast to it. It is very corrosion resistant, which is what makes titanium one of the great kind of features of titanium, is that it resists all kinds of oxidation and all kinds of stuff. So it's very, as far as an archival piece of metal to work on, it is amazing. It's a lot like Tone, what's up, buddy? It's a lot like aluminum. But yeah, very, very cool stuff. And what I do is, before what I was doing was I was priming it. This is a two-part automotive primer. So you need something that's really going to stick well to this. So you need something that's going to etch into the surface. And then that's what I was doing before with it. And then from there, just kind of putting the primer on it, and the base coat, and ready to go. I haven't tried putting base coat directly onto titanium yet. I may do a couple little test panels to see how it holds up. But again, this stuff is, nothing sticks to it, which is what it's for. They use it in biomed, and its strength to weight ratio is really great. So they'll use it in aerospace and all kinds of fun stuff. So Travis, what's going on, man? Dan, how's it going? So anyway, so you're caught up. So this one here was done like that, 2K primer on it, and then Autoborn sealer, and then I was just able to paint on it. So yeah. All right, so what I did on Monday was I started the front of the horse. I kind of finished it on my own. Make sure this is in focus though. Finished it on my own, and then I also did a lot of the, this whole cross beam emblem part. This is how the reference photo looks. So it's just a regular 64.5 or 65 Mustang front end, and it's in regular, chromey chrome. But I wanted this one to feel like it was in sunset, so we did a bunch of stuff. So what I'm going to do to get through this, Bob, what's up? Roberto. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to show you a little bit of the cleanup work on the outside that I need to do, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to work on the pony itself, because that's kind of what I mentioned we would do on Monday. All right. I got to respray this background too. It took some hits. You probably can't see it, but there's some scuffs in it and that kind of thing. Okay. So one of the things I got to do is I got to kind of straighten out the lines to make sure that they don't look wonky, I guess. Timothy John Luke Smith. I forgot to take off the moderation stuff. So Tim is our moderator for today, as long as he can hang in. All right, so what I got to do is I got to kind of straighten out basically all these lines around the edge so that they're not so kind of wonky. And it's really, all it does is take time. Let me grab my gloves here so I don't get stuff all over the panel. So to clean these up, I've got all the highlights, I've got all the shadows on them the right way. I just need to kind of straighten them out a little bit. So there's a pretty easy way to do it. And again, it's just going to take time, which again, we're not going to do a whole bunch of it. But I'll show you how I get it done. So for instance, like the top edge here, I want to straighten that out. So what I'm going to do is, actually, let's turn this on. Is this going to work? No. Oh, I have to plug it in. Hold on. Where'd that go? There it is. Cameras work better when you plug them in. All right, there we go. 2 seconds, it should fire on. Come on. You know you want to. There we go. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some black, which I don't have much here, so I'm going to put a little bit more out. So I'm just going to grab some black. Now there are a couple of ways I can do this. I can either straighten this from the black side, you know, the dark side here, or I can flip it upside down and do the orange and yellow side. Exactly what could go wrong. I'll show you what could go wrong. Just give me time, man, give me time. So what I want is I want the paint paleted out so that it's not super thick, but just enough so it flows off the brush. And I grab my ruler. This is the cutting rail from our tool. You can literally use any ruler. I like this because it has a foam back, so there's a better chance that I won't damage the painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of line it up with it, and I'm going to tilt the ruler up a little bit so this is flat down on the surface, so I just tilt it up. And then what I can do is just kind of line it up with that line, and then just run it across. So you get the advantage of a ruler. It's like you're using a pencil, but I'm doing this with a paintbrush. And the result is that line now, that orange line is perfectly straight. And then what I would do, and again, I'm not going to do this everywhere because once I show it to you once, it's just rinse and repeat. So then I'm going to go to this corner here and just kind of keep it going. Now this is where it gets tricky because you can do the same trick with a template, but you need like a thicker template, like a draftsman's template, something that doesn't, wobble around. But, the other thing, if you don't have a if you don't have a long way to go with it, you can I just do it, without any, help, I guess. Now, if I do this and I screw up and I kind of cut in too deep with the black, I just turn around and do the same thing with the orange to pull it back. And it's just kind of a back and forth thing. And that's what I'll end up doing over the whole, like anywhere where it looks like it's not quite straight. You know what I mean? And some of them, these lines have a very slight curve to them. And there's a good way to do that. I'm not going to do that on here because you won't be able to see it, but I will do it for you on a piece of paper where you can see it. So if you need to do that same thing and you need like a slight curve, this is how this is going to go. Same thing, I want to get the paint to flow off the brush, but not like, flood off and not be so thick that it doesn't want to move. So you do the same kind of thing. You line it up with, say you want to do a curve. I'll draw it above here so you can see what I'm going to be doing, or kind of what I'm doing. So I want to kind of draw a curved line like this, a soft curve like that. So what I'm going to do is lift up the ruler. You can start the line off, and then as you move it across, you can dip it down in and then pull it back up. And then by doing that, it's still, well, I just screwed it up, but hopefully you get the idea. So you can move the ruler while you're doing it too. I mean, move the paintbrush on the ruler to kind of keep it in the same place. And if you take a little bit more care than I did there, it's a really cool method. It works well. And that, works anyway. So if you start off straight and you want to curve it up, you could always just kind of like use the ruler as a pivot point. So it really works well. So it's kind of your trick of the day right there. And I wanted to show you that before I moved on with the painting, just because that's going to be, it's probably an hour's worth of noodling with this thing to get all those little lines, kind of straight. But we're not here for that. So we're gonna keep going with the rest of it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I love it. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? So I've included a lot of cobalt blue in the front of this to kind of give that, it gives a little shot of kind of the evening sun. The logo, oh, what did I just do? Nothing. I thought I just touched it with the paintbrush, which would suck. That would be a what could go wrong thing. So I've got the sunlight, the sunset on both the top and the bottom because of the way that the logo is curved. Where's my... So because the way the logo is curved, what you're looking at is this is the ground, the gray part here. You can see the asphalt in this. And then there was something sitting in front of this car, this black area. But I just like it because it adds a little bit of interest to the neck of the horse. And then you can see the horizon line right here. And then this is the sky up here. So because this is kind of a curved, almost like a lens, the bottom part of this is exactly the same thing, just upside down. So it's the same exact thing. This is the horizon line, and this is the sky here. So you treat it all the same way, you just flip it upside down. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we got going on here. So I'm going to do the same thing to this, you know, the bottom part. I'm going to do the top. Oh, I needed that. Why did I throw that over there? Now, I also have a warning for you. They've been working on the something's up with the internet in our area. I've been seeing the trucks out, and we got a call in Monday night. The feed kept dropping, and that was because of whatever was going on with the I don't know if there's a wire down or what. But if the feed gets really whacked, it won't show up on my end. So just let me know that it's cutting in and out. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. Unfortunately, we've been kind of battling with it all week. But again, just so you guys know what's going on. Where do I want to start? Probably the tail. The tail, because it's going to be easiest for you guys to see. All right, so what I'm going to do first, just put out a little bit, no, I got some. I was going to say put out some little bit of red oxide, but I've got some up here. So I'm going to work on just the tail today, so you guys see kind of how the chrome gets built up in this kind of sunset vibe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some red oxide, which I've got over here, but I know it's kind of dried out now, so I'm going to grab and make up a little bit more. Although this feels very brown. This doesn't feel orangey enough. That could be brown. So we're just going to put out some orange. This is definitely red oxide right here, right where my middle finger is. But there isn't enough of it there, so I'll put out some red oxide too, just to make sure. That's better. Okay. So put out some fresh red oxide here. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. And add some white to that, and we're going to get this really pale orange, which is what we're going for. So this is actually like the primer. So this is going to be a lot more of a bright orange when I'm done, but I want to kind of clean up the top edge of the tail here, because it's got, you know, some black overspray on it from the background. So if I just paint the orange directly on this, it's gonna just turn into mud. You won't be able to see it. Even now, when I put that white orange mix, it's really kind of nasty there. It's not really clean at all. If that's giving me a really hard time, I'll show you what I do with that. So say that's just not cleaning up quickly. I don't want to keep putting that orange on there. It will eventually cover, but it's going to leave this mound of paint. So what I would do in that instance is I would just grab white, palette that into the brush. Again, I don't want this super thick because you know, you just have all this paint build up, which I don't want. And you'll even notice here, it's not brilliant white, right? It's just the transparent white, just kind of, or the thinness of the white is see-through. So. But it's given me enough of a base that when I go to put the orange on, it'll brighten up. It'll just look the way it should. But what I'm really doing with all this is just cleaning up that edge, making that edge nice and neat. Tim, I'm sorry I couldn't hang out for your feed last night. I was wiped, and I did it again to myself today. I was up at 4 a.m. this morning, and it's for no other reason that I've got a lot going on. And, you know, I call it brain blendering, where I just, I can't sleep, so I just figure, you know, cut my losses and just start working. And, you know, painting always makes me feel better. There's nothing bad going on, it's just, you know, it's tax season and, you know, all this kind of stuff that's going on. So, plus I've completed my entries for the Butler mid-year, which is a huge show, and the Manifest show. They were both this week for me, so I had a lot to think about. And, so yesterday morning I was up early again, and then by the time Tim's feed rolled around, I was like, "There's no way." But I'll rewatch it tomorrow. Friday's usually my catch-up day, because I'm doing all the 543s or the rest of them. I've got a couple done already, but I'll finish them up tomorrow. So usually I just run YouTube, while I'm working and catch up on everything. Yeah, exactly, Simon. I like it. I mean, I'm kind of a morning person ever since, the kids were born, and I don't blame them, but I blame them. I like to get up early. It's funny, I mentioned that to Marge yesterday as I'm like crashing at 9:30. I'm like literally can't keep my eyes open, and I'm like, I used to go out at this time. Like, what the heck? I mean, I hate to be like, get off my lawn, but yeah, it's like it's funny now. Like like if I go out that late, I have to. I don't have to take a nap, but but like once I get out, I get like my second wind and I'm good. But getting ready, like it's 7 o'clock, I'm like, ugh, just want to go read a book and hang out. All right, so I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of anticipating that I'm going to have the same issue. So I'm just kind of cutting in, and I know I said we'd just do the tail, but what the heck? We'll just do it the way I would normally do it. It's a real thin line, real awesome thin yellow line along here. Now this here, the bottom side of him is going to be yellow. The one up top, I'm priming that for orange. Yeah, exactly, Tim. Yeah, it was fun. I spent the last 2 days, just getting everything ready for taxes and all that fun stuff, which if you own your own business, it's a lot of fun. Okay, now the good thing is since I put in that white, I don't have to add it up here. I can kind of just grab a little bit of actually I will add a little bit because I don't want this. If I put just red oxide over white on the panel, it's going to be super bright, like really bright orange, and I don't want that. This needs to be kind of a little bit more subdued. See this orange back here on the back of his backside? That's kind of what we're going for. This is not wet enough. So the other really, really cool thing that I didn't mention to everyone because I hadn't really talked to everyone about it, so I entered the Butler Institute of American Arts mid-year, which is a national show, and it's a respected show. It's not easy to get into, and the stakes are high with it. So hopefully you just saw that. So I just kind of went over it a couple times. It's going to need to be a little bit more orange, but this is a good start for this. But the juror this year is Audrey Flack, which if you're into photorealism, she's one of the heavies, like real heavy. And she's been around for pretty much the inception in the 70s when photorealism really got its kind of feet underneath it with Louis Mizell and Chuck Close and Charlie Bell, just amazing artists. So Audrey Flack is actually the juror for the show, which makes me like scared. Oh, thanks, Tone. And it makes me scared because Marge and I were talking about this. So I've got that base orange in. We weren't talking about that, but I'm just kind of talking while I'm talking. So I've got the orange, the first layer of orange in. I'm going to put a darker layer of orange just to kind of separate that, and we're going to keep going. So I was talking to Marge about the show, and it's like interesting because one of the things that I tell everyone who's thinking about entering a juried show is that you do sort of have control. Well, you definitely have control over the shows that you enter, and if you know the juror, they're impartial. Like for instance, if a juror is the person judging the show, they're 9 out of 10 times a curator or an artist or something like that. If they're an artist, sometimes it helps to know like what kind of art they do, because if someone now, they should be impartial, especially if it's a show open to everything. But, they like what they like, and, they might be more partial, say, if they're a watercolorist or an abstract artist, say. If I put my painting into that show and an abstract artist has more of an affinity towards abstract art, they might lean towards the abstract art and not so much the photorealistic art. Again, that's not set in stone. That's not usually how it's done. Usually the judges are impartial, but you can't count it out. So the other thing too with that, and I'm just going to keep painting while I'm talking, is, when you have a photorealistic painting, for instance, and just a strict abstract artist is the juror looking at it. Their specialty is abstract art, so they might not really get the subtleties in a different style of art, and that's totally fine. That's understandable. They might be versed in everything, but it's kind of like being a doctor. If you're a podiatrist, you know feet. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, yeah, my arm is really hurting," now that doctor knows stuff about the rest of the body. They took pre-med and all the other basic doctor type classes or whatever. So they're going to have a pretty decent idea, but they're not going to be like a specialist. So same thing in art. Like you specialize in what you know. So that goes one way. So if the juror is an abstract artist and like I put my stuff in, there's a chance they may not get it. They may not understand it. Now, however, on the other side of that, if you enter a show and the person that's is a juror does exactly what you do, but is like a legend in the field, like if I put my work in, nothing's going to get by Audrey. You know what I mean? Like she's going to know my type of work inside and out because she's an icon in this type of art. So that's really nerve-wracking for me. So it's kind of an interesting change between the two things. I've conflicted photorealism. I have conflicted with photorealism. I think it's a byproduct of keen observation, but still is a trap or dead end, meaning as an aesthetic goal. It may be the best, meaning it lacks editorial content. Now see, Tim, there's an argument there, and I totally understand where you're coming from. So my argument, or not argument, but my feeling about that as far as photorealism, which is, for those who don't know, so realism is just making something look real. Photorealism is making it look like a photograph, essentially. So taking all the things that a photograph does, like depth of field and all that fun stuff, and you incorporate that into your art. So for me, realism in general is telling a story just like any other type of art. And for realism or photorealism, for me, I'm trying to tell every nuance of that story. I'm trying to give every single detail so that the person who's looking at it can have their feelings as if they're looking at the real thing. I don't want necessarily to inject my feelings into it. My feelings are certainly there, but I want to tell that story exactly the way it was told to me. And that's what it is. Now, there are so many ways to tell a story, right? You can be minimal, you can be flowery, you can be, any of these ways that you can tell a story. So, and they're all right. It's just a matter of, which one you feel does the best job at doing what you want it to do. So, yeah. But yeah, so it's slightly nerve-wracking for me putting all that in, knowing that she's going to be eventually looking at least the ones that are that are finalists essentially. So if I get in, you will hear it from wherever you are, because this is a big one. All right, so I'm just messing around with yellow now. It's the same thing. There's overspray on this, which is causing it to look kind of muddy. So I'm just kind of brightening it up a little bit with the yellow mixed with white. And this is golden yellow here that I'm mixing it with, which I am out of. I have to order more red oxide and more golden yellow. So I've used it all up. Yeah, I feel good about that. Oh, no, I don't. I'm going to keep going with that a little bit more. So it's the same thing, I feel the same way when someone looks at, like my work and says, oh, I can't see the brush strokes, and then I need to see the brush strokes in artwork. And I get that. That's, I am, one of the main things I always do when I look at art is I try to figure out how the person did it. And if you see the brush strokes, it's easier to do that. You know what I mean? But for me, it's not, again, that's an injection of the artist, and not that I don't want to be in my art, because I am. I can't help but be in it, but I really want that, again, I want that, the viewer to be not distracted by my, my take on it. And I know that sounds weird because, I mean, that's why we're artists a lot of times, to tell a story in our own voice, But for me, I just want to tell nature's story, and that nature meaning everything, not me. You know what I mean? Like if there's a car, that's what I'm talking about. That's nature too, for me. You know what I mean? Like it's out there. So, all right. For this, so now what's going on here is this is the horizon. So I've got this neat black, whatever this is, on the horizon on the front of the horse. What am I missing, Tim? Oh, as I put my head in the way. I don't use a photorealistic because your insight is and the life experience palatable and rooted in tradition. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I steal photorealistic techniques, like especially that out of focus thing, which is, something our eyes don't necessarily do. We focus on what we're looking at, and we have that type of. But the camera has that depth of field that really makes it's a trick that adds a lot of depth to a painting. So I'm always using that trick. All right, so I've got the horizon here, which I got to clean up, but I also have to kind of make this a little bit more orange on the top because the sun is setting. The question is that a big enough area to airbrush? And I kind of feel it is. Yeah, I'm going to airbrush that because I got to get a little bit of an orange fade on this because, again, this is I'll tilt it so it's correct to you guys. So that's the sky right there, and that's the ground. So I'm going to have to fade that like the sun is going down so it's darker at the top. I was going to do that with a paintbrush, but I might not be able to get a convincing fade with that, so I'm gonna do that with an airbrush. But it's also a really small area. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to put in the horizon, and then I'll deal with the fade. So yeah, if you do get a chance, again, it's Louis Mizell is the guy who coined the term back in the 70s, and he has a gallery in New York. From what I'm kind of getting, that he is semi-involved, but I think he's retired or taken a step back because I was lucky to get kind of a back and forth brief email with him, and it sounds like he's just kind of the gallery is being run by someone else right now. I mean he's definitely involved, but he doesn't seem like he seems like he's retired is what I'm trying to say, which is great because the guy's just done so much. But if you get a chance, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. There's a great book. It's Photorealism in the Millennium that they put out. It's a hardcover book, but if you find it used, or if you're into it and you want to spend the money on it, it's a coffee table book, so it's beautiful. But it's amazing the artwork in there, and when it was done is, like I said, most of those artists were really found their heyday in the 70s. So to see that type of work is just that it was rolling back then the way it was just amazing. If you were just recording without feeling, your work would not be nearly as amazing as it is. Thanks, Tim. And that's it. It's so, I don't know. I think, never mind. That's what's crazy about being an artist too. Like, not only do you spend all your time just trying to technically get your skill down, you also have to understand how that's woven in your life, and that's crazy. You really have to know, like any other profession, pick a profession. You can be passionate about anything you do. Doctor, lawyer, auto repairman, house cleaner, it doesn't matter. You could be super passionate about that, but rarely will someone, kind of corner you and say, well, what's your motivation for like the way you did your under sink plumbing there, or what were your deep feelings and your introspection on your transmission like swap out. It's like, but with an artist, it's like you do that work, and then all this emotion and all this stuff that you're, kind of have tied into that, you have to then tell that story. You don't have to, but I mean, it's part of what we do. So yeah, it's a weird, really weird profession. All right, so there is something else going on here that I don't have, and I'll show it to you, and I'm going to start working on it now. But if you look real close, you see, obviously, the pony has dimensions. See that back edge of it right there? So it's all the shiny stuff, but then what you're seeing right here is the top edge of the horse, but it's just basically reflecting the bottom side of, this, whatever they call this, the frame, I guess. So it's really dark, it's really subtle, but there's that little highlight in the back. So we're going to do that. We're going to add some dimension to that. All right. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to use, I think I'm just going to use the brown. Well, let's see if there's enough of it here. I don't know if there is. Meaning it's kind of dried out right here, so we'll see if we can pull some out. I do have a little bit of brown left. I seriously need to place an order, and it's perfect timing because Createx just came out with a whole bunch of new opaque colors, which I want to try. So when I go to replace my regular colors, the ones I'm missing, I can order some new colors. And we're always about new colors. So this is brown. It's kind of a Hershey color, Hershey chocolate color. I wish it was a little darker, but it's not a big deal that it's not. But if there's a neutral brown, that I would feel it would be a little bit darker. So it's not not a huge deal because you can darken it, but just for out of the bottle stuff, yeah, this is not going to show up. Why did I do this? Well, I can get it started anyway. Let's see what it looks like. So all I'm really concentrating on here, yeah, you can't see it at all, is that back edge. And I'm going to have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to get this pretty light. One of the neat things about the brown and burnt umber as well, if you are struggling with, kind of like finding a flesh tone, just simply by adding white to the brown or white to burnt umber, it produces a pretty nice skin tone right out of the gate. You don't have to jump through hoops. I don't know if you can see this on the palette right here in the middle, but it's actually, if you keep lightening it, it's actually a pretty decent Caucasian like wood tone, skin tone. All right, so what we're going for again, we're just going for that back edge. What is with this? We're trying to get that back edge. A while back, I had a great interaction, and I might have told this story. I love, obviously, well, I'm painting them now. I love painting cars. I think, it's a lot of fun, and everyone has a good car story and all that fun stuff. But I always like going into a traditional, like, gallery, like, I never really thought that people would, like, understand as much as they do. Like, I always felt like, painting pictures of cars like wasn't, all right, I'll give you the story. Might be easier than me flopping all over the place. So that line right there looks good. Now there's another one on the tail, so I'll do the same thing. So I had a piece in one of the Cambridge Art Association shows, which was also a big deal, and they asked me to talk about the painting. Like they basically picked like 9 artists over 3 days, and you go in and you have a talk and you talk about your painting and all that stuff. So I had a car painting in that show, which was pretty amazing for me because again, these are all really really like great artists doing all kinds of really cool stuff, and then you have me with the little tiny car painting. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting my turn, and I think I was last or second to last, but the woman before me had the most amazing artwork. And it wasn't just the artwork. The artwork was great and everything, but she's telling me she was from, I can't remember the country, but whatever country she was from, women were basically shit on. They were looked down on, and she was talking about her young life as a girl in this country before she moved to the U.S., and how poorly she was, treated, and her art was all like about this experience, and it was really powerful. And I'm sitting there thinking, this woman is telling the most amazing story with her art, and I'm painting cars. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? I got to step it up. And I actually, when I got up to talk, I'm like, look, I have to tell you all. And I said just what I told you guys. I'm like, I was going to talk about how I do this thing. I'm still working with the brown. I'm just putting those edges in everywhere. So, I was going to talk about how I do it because, people, it was a small painting, and, people usually ask the techniques and all that fun stuff. So I was prepared for that. But I was like, I'm blown away with the power of these other pieces. And one of the other women artists, or are not, she was just an artist, but she happened to be a woman, but it doesn't matter, said, you know what, though painting cars is just as important, because, and then she said, like, everyone remembers, the first date in their car, or, their dad's car or their mom's car, or, their first car, and all the memories that come with that. And it really was cool. It put it into perspective for me that, this passion that I have, I didn't even realize the depth of it. And yes, it's not as important as, telling a story about, human suffering or making the world a better place that way, but it's still okay. Jesse, what is up, buddy? I know that was a huge soapbox that you didn't need to hear, but thanks for letting me air it out. So there we go. So that's all I need to do. It's an impression, it just gives the viewer enough to know that that's actually three-dimensional, that it kind of tucks behind there. All right, I'm happy with that. Quick drive-by Patty. It's awesome. What am I doing now? So I'm not quite ready to do the airbrushing yet, but we're getting there. So remember, what's going on here, the sunset to the lighter sky to the horizon, is flipped over on the bottom. It's the same thing. So I'm going to do the same exact thing on that now that I've got that short up. So I'm going to grab this orange first. I may flip this upside down. Yeah. I think I grabbed the wrong one. There we go. Yeah, so orange on the top, or, well, it's technically the bottom. There we go. This transitions to yellow down a little bit farther, but up here it's orange, so we're good with that. Lovely. I'm so impatient with the paintbrush. It's like, I want the paint to dry right away. And then if I go over it again before it's dry, it just gets all streaky. But I can't help myself. It's like, stop it. What are you going to do? Okay, that's good. So since I have it this way, I got to put in the horizon line. Same thing here. So I'm going to grab a little bit of black. Running out of room for the black here. I got to probably grab a new sheet for the palette. All right, so this one, the horizon line on the bottom of the tail needs to be really, really thin, because I don't want it to compete with the top, because it'll just look forced, it'll look like it's kind of cartoony, and I don't want that. So we'll make this horizon on the tail part of it really thin. Lovely. All right, that's good. That is good. What else am I missing? Should I do the orange and then do the blue? Probably, because I got to do that with that. Yeah, I might as well keep that going since I got black in the brush. Keep that going down here. And I'm excited to show you guys the Harley painting when it's all framed up. This is... the frame on that got real big. Not real big. Actually, it's pretty big. It's 17 inches by 15 inches, I think. And it's only a 4.5 by 7-inch painting. So the frame is pretty big for it, but it's kind of antiqued, and it's going to have museum glass in it, which is nice, and it just it really just worked out great all around. Poop. Wish I hadn't done that. I think I can fix that. So this orange here really is going to be magenta, but do I have any magenta out? Yeah, purple. That's odd. I think I would have had magenta out since it was over here. But I used it all. Turned it white. Okay, so the magenta is going to be... So the reason why I was kind of hemming and hawing about that is I really should have airbrushed that or taken a little bit more time with it, because it's kind of streaky. It's not a big deal. And then the magenta is neat. When it hits the red oxide, it becomes like a really, really bright red, which is beautiful. So it adds a lot of punch to that, which is nice. And I mentioned this on Monday night. So this painting is actually available. Actually, I'm going to make that orange part a little bit smaller. So the way I've fixed that is I'm going to have to paint the yellow again. So I'm just going to grab this super light yellow, because I can't just paint yellow over this because it's transparent. So I got to kind of back it all the way up. But I really have to thin this bottom edge out a little bit. That's better. So what I was saying was Monday night I mentioned to everyone that I'm going to make this, or this painting is available right now. It's on the website, but it's on the website unframed. So if you want this painting and grab it, it's going to come clear coated. It's going to come with the UVLS on it. So it'll be ready to be framed, but it's unframed. And I did that so that I could put it up for, a really crazy price. If it doesn't sell by the time I finish it, like get it all done and ready, then I'm going to frame it and then I'll put it up for the regular price. So if you're looking for a deal and you don't mind, or you have someone who can frame it, then go for it. Or if you want to wait till it's framed, that's cool too, because I'm not going to do a custom frame for this, meaning a frame that I basically make from scratch. I'll get a pre-made frame for it, but it'll still be framed really nicely. All right, I feel good about that. It's coming together. All right, yeah, definitely going to airbrush this part with the orange. I got the horizon line in. I'm going to add the blue and the purple after. So I don't know if you can pick this up, but those really red lines in here, though that's magenta, that's not red. It's the magenta does a great job. It just kind of, it's the transformer of colors, it depends on what you put it over, which will really change it a lot. All colors will change when you put them on top of one another, but it seems like magenta just like is off the rails, which is fun. Yeah, let's get some airbrushing in on this. I'm going to put some orange fades on this, and they'll be ready to put the blue and the magenta and a couple little details, and the tail will be done. So this is aiming to be a fast feed, but I'll keep going for a little while. I do need to finish those 543s though. I'm excited for this week. Some really fun ones. So, all right. So I'm going to do this with red oxide because it is my go-to orange color. And I want to throw out another huge thank you for I check my analytics on YouTube all the time, because I'm trying to keep up with it and everything. And I happen to click on audience, like the way they separate, like where your audience is from and how old they are and all that fun stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised that the majority of the people who watch me on YouTube are from the UK, which is kind of fun. So thank you to all you crazy Brits who are hanging out. All right, so there it is. So that what I did was, I didn't mention it, but you guys have seen me do it a billion times. I added, how do I do that? How do I literally use something and then can't find it? So that's the 40-50, 40-11. It's one part 40-50 to 5 parts reducer. And that's what I use for most of the time for reducing. That or the 1-10 I use a lot too. But depending on what I'm trying to get done. All right, so this is orange. See if I have to add any more orange to this, but we'll see. I don't have to use a mask on this or anything because the black below, if this color won't show up on the black. So it doesn't really matter if I get overspray on the black. But if it was, you know, I could easily grab a freehand shield and just block it off. But again, it doesn't really matter. In fact, if I did hose this thing down and got orange on the little, like this, you know, line I put in first, the back side of that, it would look fine. So I think I have to add more orange to this because I think it's too thin. Yeah, it is a little too thin. It will just take too long to build up. So I'm going to add a little bit of shot here. So where are you? There you are. There we go. So two years ago, year and a half ago, a tree fell and is leaning on the cable, essentially cable internet wires on the street. But because they rolled by and cut the top off the tree, and then they left the tree actually on the cable, and it's like, you know, it's a little hanging on the cable. And the idea, it's not a huge tree. It's maybe about 6 inches, you know, 6-inch diameter. Well, you can't see it because my hands are small. I mean, my hands are, you know, you're close up. So, like, you know, like this, like that. But, you know, it's a good sized tree. But, yeah, what I heard, because we have a neighbor who's like, you know, who's like, you know, on top of things. He's like, yeah, if it's not a real problem, like if it's not doing anything, like bad, like electrical, they won't touch it. I'm like, oh, that's great. So when the internet started getting wacky at the beginning of the week, I'm like, that's exactly what it is, but it wasn't. It was something else. They were working down the street. Let's see how this is. So this is the balance with this stuff. I want it to spray really smooth, but I also want to, you know, see it, you know. If I reduce it like crazy, it sprays great, but it doesn't build up. You know, it takes forever. If I have too much paint in it, I can't get the fade that I want. And so you just got to kind of mess with it till it acquiesces, you know. And that is doing it. I may even use it over here too, since this color is working. That's the other thing too. When you get the perfect mix, it's like spraying the way you want, it's covering the way you want. All of a sudden you need to use it everywhere. It's like, I got to use it everywhere because this is working, and I like it when it's working. That's lovely. See the difference between the top and the bottom? The top, well, let me try that again. The difference between the top and the bottom, how that's got that kind of orangey fade. So we'll do the same thing on the bottom part of it too. And again, you know, this doesn't show up in the black, so I don't have to be super careful about getting it out there. There you go. I like it. I like it a lot. Now I'm going to reclaim the highlight, the yellow just along the edge of the horizon. Paintbrush would help. There we go. Get some white. Yellow. I am out of golden yellow. So place an order for that today. Get some in. And if I ever run out, there's a Hobby Lobby that's pretty close, and they usually have a bunch of stuff, like especially the basic colors. If I run out of, you know, any of the, like I said, base colors. Hobby Lobby will have it. They won't have the weird ones, and they rarely have, like if I run out of reducer, all they have is the real tiny bottles of reducer. But it's good in a pinch. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of reclaiming that bright highlight right at the bottom of the horizon. This was a little bit too yellow, so. That's better right there. Good. So it's just adding a little bit of brightness right at the edge that I kind of lost when I hit it with the airbrush, which is fine. It's okay. Especially when it's yellows and stuff because there's no blue shift at all. So that's good. See how that looks. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. All right, so that is that. Now I'll add the blue in and the magenta. So the blue kind of pops in weird spots. Like if you look, I don't know if you can see it in the shoulder here, but it's in like kind of the corners. I don't know what it is, but I'm putting it in. So the way I do this is the same way. Just grab some of the white and make a really pale blue. Because again, the blue is even though the blue I have here is the opaque phthalo blue and the cobalt blue, if I paint those right on black, you won't see it. It's just totally transparent. So I kind of painted in first with the light blue to kind of give it a primer. So there's blue there, a little bit of blue here. Oh, I missed that whole thing over here. This is cool. So I missed the whole, all right. There's a lot going on up on the top of this tail that I didn't even put in. So we're going to start with the blue. That's where the blue is. And then while that's drying, there's a little bit of blue here. There's blue all down here too, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'll wait. So we're going to let that dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to put the rest of the black in, which I missed. So the black is all around this thing. I just missed it. I wasn't even paying attention. Just fine. Like that. Good. So still letting that blue dry, or the light color dry, because again, it needs to be dry before I do the next step. Anywhere else? Yeah, there's another spot right here. Spot right here. Ooh, that's too thin. Oh, and I forgot. Today's cheers is Gatorade, because I love Gatorade. But I get Gatorade Zero, so it makes me feel better about my life choices. A little bit of a highlight up there. Oh, there's a little bit of a highlight on the back here too, which is kind of cool. All right, good. I wonder if that's dry enough. Should I be an impatient cow and just do it? Probably. Phthalo? Cobalt? Something like that? Yeah, it's cobalt. Good. That's too thin. Is this not going to work because it's watery? Probably. And what's this? What is this blue? I just want to make sure I don't grab phthalo blue, because all the stuff in the front is cobalt blue, which is like a purpley blue. And if I grab the phthalo blue, it's got a green cast to it, and it'll just look, it'll look totally different. And I don't want that. So that's what we want. So once that's dry, again, that acts like a primer. I can just go over it with the blue that I need it to be. This is still really thin. What the hecko? I have more drops of blue out here than I know what to do with. Literally know what to do with. So put one more. Why not? That's the stuff right there. Wet palette is great, but it definitely does a number on the drops. Like, you get probably 2 or 3 days usable time out of any one of them, but even 24 hours later, the paint is really watery. It sucks up all the water from the palette overnight. And well, you can still use it to a certain degree. It's rough. It just doesn't work like it was intended to work. So there we go. So now I'm just going over all of them with the blue, and that gets them down to the value that they need to be. Lovely. Okay, good. Highlights. Do I do highlights? No, I'll do the highlights last. Okay. So the next step is the airbrushing with the black. What do I have in here? I have the orange in this. So let me get rid of the orange real quick. And we'll just switch to black. So this is just super reduced black. And this will add the fade in on the orange part of it in the middle. Okay. This is going to need a template. I'll tell you why. So I'm going to be spraying basically the bottom side of this orange section right here. So it's really, really close to the yellow section. And I don't want to get overspray on the yellow, the bright yellow. So I'm going to block that off. This will work. So I don't know how they do it. All these templates, the art tool templates, I don't know how they do it, but literally between the Essential 7 set, which you can tell because I think they go in order from FH1 to FH7. There's every single curve you could ever need, and I don't know how it all came together like that, but it's amazing. So there you go. So that's kind of what it looks like. So now we'll do the highlights, and then the tail is pretty much done. So the highlights, again, in the photograph, the highlights are bright white, but I don't want to do that. I want to use the yellow because that's kind of the predominant, but I do want it kind of bright. So I just grab just a straight yellow, and then just put a little dot there where it's going to be. I haven't quite decided if I want to make those glow yet. That's kind of one of those things that might be too much depending on how it looks in the end. And then there's just a bright highlight up here as well as on here too. Oh, the magenta. I almost forgot. Okay. Let's get these highlights in, and I can put the magenta in, and then the tail will be done. There we go. All right, so the magenta I just kind of tucked in a few places. I've got it along the bottom here, which is good. Basically with the magenta, or any of the colors really, I want to carry them through the whole thing, but I also don't want to overdo them as well, because it can kind of, just overpower things. So I think where a good spot is going to be for the magenta is actually on his hind quarter here. So I'm going to start with a decent sized line on this, and then I'll adjust it with the black, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So, oh, that was way too much. So there's a what could go wrong moment. See if we can get that off before it dries. What I just did there, you want to be real careful when you do it. When the paint is wet, you can put a clean towel right on it, and just don't rub. Just put it down on the the offending area, and then when you pull it off, as long as you didn't move it, you should be able to pick most of it up. And also, for God's sake, make sure that the cloth that you put on that is clean. Like this has paint on it, and this also usually has alcohol, rubbing alcohol in it too. You want to make sure that if you do this, obviously, there's nothing on, it's totally clean on the side you push down. And remember, it's just straight down, and then pull it straight up, and you should be in good shape. So there's trick number 2 for you for fixing what could go wrong moments. All right, back to not screwing this up. How about that? This brush has had it. I feel so bad. It's a brand new brush, like it's 3 weeks old, and I totally destroyed it between traveling and being careless with it, and I feel really bad. All right, so the magenta I'm going to put right along this back edge here, and again, it's just a hint of it, so that when they're looking at this, that magenta is carried really through the whole thing. I think I'm going to throw a little bit on the back too, the very back of the tail. Again, just to kind of introduce that color a little bit, so that it doesn't look like the other spots are random. It looks like they're it's supposed to be there essentially. All right, I'm happy with that. All right, so I think that's where I'm going to call it today, and only because I do want to get those 543s done, and the rest of the horse is exactly the same deal. So it's not, you're not going to be missing anything. What I do need to do, though, as I finish this now, I want the attention on the horse, but it's the same deal with the frame around the side. So the frame shares all the same colors, except right now there's no magenta, there's no blue. Those are colors that aren't in the frame. Those, I need to kind of incorporate them in somehow, because if I don't, it's going to look weird. It's going to look like these are two different materials, and really they're not. The very front of this opening here is chrome, so it should be treated the same way as the horse. And then these side, the little bars here, they're also chrome as well. The outside frame of this is kind of a matte gray, so that's okay. But the other stuff has to carry those same colors in. Again, not crazy, but just enough that it kind of ties it all together. And then this painting will be done. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to pull this off the magnet here real quick. Well, there's a titanium. Pretty. And because I want to show you just the sliver of red at the top, and how that kind of, I love that. I'm even thinking about putting a sliver of gray down the bottom, because there's like the edge of the chrome, or an orange maybe. I'm not sure yet, but something like that. But yeah, that's how it's coming out. And if I tilt it the right way, you can see all the difference between the airbrush and the paintbrush work. It's fun. When I clear it, you won't see any of that. It'll be all the same value. So there you go, kids. All ready. Well, not ready to go, but something like that. I don't know. Oy, 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 oy. Let's turn that off. There we go. That's what I wanted. Good. And as soon as that's ready, we'll switch back over to here. And that's what I got. All right. So thank you for hanging out with me today on this fine Thursday afternoon if you're in the East Coast, or evening if you're in the UK, or morning if you're over there on the West Coast. So I hope you had a great week so far. I hope your weekend is fantastic. That's what I got. So thanks again for hanging out with me. It'll be up on the site if you missed any of it and you want to rewatch it, or if you know anyone else who would like to watch it, that'd be awesome. If you would be so kind as to hit that like button, that would be fantastic. And if you're new here, welcome. Click that subscribe button and hang out with us. We try to have a good time. That's what I got. All right. So for Steve Leahy and whatever we call this, Thursday Live, I will catch you guys next time. Thanks a lot.